You could see this black armored police vehicle driving very slowly alongside both the passenger side and the driver's side of this white cargo van. And I want to turn now to Josh Campbell and Julia Kayam. And let me go to you, Josh, first. Any sense as to what this vehicle was doing?
Yeah, this is the information gathering phase right now. Again, as we mentioned earlier, there appears to be no imminent threat from whoever is inside that vehicle. It could be because that individual has indeed taken their life, as it was being reported earlier, as a possibility. But as you see that third Bearcat with the Sheriff's Department come alongside, they're essentially gathering information. This vehicle came on their radar. I'm told by a law enforcement source that this is believed to be associated with that Monterey Park mass shooting. And now they're going about the process methodically to try to determine who is inside, whether that person poses a threat, and we'll have to see how long this goes.
That was near the end of a very devastating situation. This part happened Sunday, midday in Los Angeles area after the Lunar New Year celebration out in Monterey Park. Was interrupted by a gunman who ran into the Star Dance studio and shot a bunch of folks. 10 people were killed, another 10 were injured, and they're beginning to get some of the identities as of today. So that situation did eventually break down. They were looking for a man in a white van. As you saw, they surrounded him with those SWAT units, and it all ended there. They did discover a self-inflicted gunshot wound perpetrator there in the front seat. Let's watch more of what they had to go through.
Yes, let's hope, and once again remind everyone we're on delay. No one's in threat. That we're not going to see gunfire live. Here we go. This is
smashing the window.
They would have had a robot. Yeah, they would have had a robot do this. They would have not put men in. It's all men in harm's way unless they absolutely knew 100%. The only question is there someone in there? We have to believe there is, just based on the what we heard the sheriff say earlier. And now they will. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the same thing.
Juliet, yeah, the officers are entering the vehicle.
Yeah.
We are looking at almost live images right now of that white cargo van. Police have entered the vehicle. It appears as though there is somebody slumped over the steering wheel of this white cargo van that we're looking at right now. We've just moved away from that image.
Certainly a dramatic development there. This police standoff, some 30 miles away from the actual crime scene. But in looking at these images now, it appears at least the scene in Torrance is now over, Jim.
LA County Sheriff Sheriff Luna had a couple press conferences as this was all going on, and he gave details of what it is that did go down at this and also another dance hall where everything ended before he ended up running away here. Let's listen to the sheriff talk.
Our very preliminary description has been described as a male Asian, and that's from the scene here in Monterey Park. They observed numerous victims and patrons in the business parking lot. Additional officers made entry into the business and located numerous gunshot victims. We don't know if this is specifically a hate crime defined by law, but who walks into a dance hall and guns down 20 people? The description we have now is of a male Asian. Does that matter? I don't know.
Let's jump to this graphic for you guys really fast for you jump in here, Jessica. Because these officials, they searched for folks. He went to a second dance hall where one of the guys in the front ended up disarming. There's a big story behind that. It's frightening that he had to go through that, but he did make it out. And also end up disarming this 72-year-old suspect there. But officials were investigating whether an incident at another dance venue in the neighboring city of Alhambra, which was 20 minutes later later on Saturday night, was connected to the massacre in Monterey Park at that first dance hall. So in the second venue, witnesses said that Asian man walked in holding a gun, and that patrons were able to grab it away. One particular one is getting a lot of the attention around doing that. But no one was shot, and the man ended up fleeing. And then the next morning, they were trapping him in there, and they said they heard a single gunshot from that van. Here's the bulletin that the LA County Sheriff did also put out of that suspect at the time, which they have now determined is or was 72-year-old Hu Can Tran. I guess they're looking for motives, but obviously he's not here anymore. Another one, Burbank. It's getting tiring.
Another one, yeah, I saw a statistic 33 in the first 22 days of 2023, which is insane. It's a lot. And a lot of people are talking about guns again because it's popular overwhelmingly among the American public to have common sense background checks. And if it's popular legislation, of course it should pass. And we know the gun lobby is the reason why so many members of Congress are not voting for common sense background checks. But even still, with the proliferation of arms we've seen over the last century, it's gonna be near impossible, even with the most advanced buyback programs where you're paying above market rate for these guns, it's gonna be near impossible to get these guns off of the streets to the point where if you wanna have access to one, you can't. And that's a huge problem. And it begs the question, what do we do about this? What's the motivation of these people? And now we're at the point where there is a body of literature about mass killings from doing interviews with the people who have not committed suicide at the end of their mass killings. And it seems to be that this is the kind of crime that's committed against a social setting. The point of anger is that people are gathering socially, and a lot of it is people are terribly lonely. We've seen the degradation of any sense of community in a lot of places, and such a focus on the individual in our culture in the United States. And in a similar fashion, that individual focus has led us to think mental illness is something that's very personal and can't be based in a community or society at large. So what do we do to repair our communities so that people don't feel so lonely and so angry at their loneliness that they do things like that? I really think that's the conversation we need to be having.
And the reasons why it may be hard to have that conversation is because we live in a society, and maybe this is just human nature or it's society based, who knows, that has revenge on our minds, or has, hey, let's not see these folks as anything else but monsters, which I have a good mind of doing that too. I'm not saying I'm immune to that. But if you have the mindset that, hey, this, we call folks monsters and animals and savages and all that stuff, so that before a next one may happen, we may not want to approach folks and be like, listen, this is how we have to approach it so you don't become this person. Instead, we need to come with an iron fist and make sure they know the punishment will be rough. Well, then they kill themselves. I mean, that's the easy way out. That's why we call them cowards after they do such a thing, because then they bail away from the situation. And what have we gained as the folks still here? What have the folks gained of the family and friends of folks who end up dying? People from Uvalde, these parents these wounds are never going to heal. What are we gonna do about that before it happens again? And I'm glad you brought up the whole thing about the potential political moves that can, maybe some of these gun buybacks or changes like that. It's damn near impossible at this point. No, I don't have the answer, but I do know the answers we've been provided with aren't working. And the only time we care about it for half a day is after another 10 to 12 to 20 people get shot up or killed. And it just moves on and on. The money keeps circulating, the politicians keep getting the money, and folks keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then we say, it's because that one guy. How about the next one guy? Do we care? Doesn't really seem like it, man.